And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
Matthew Knowles is about to set the industry on fire. That one sentence cracked open the internet like a dropped glass. Within minutes, Twitter was in meltdown mode. DNA never lies. One post warned, tagging Jay-Z with a side-eye emoji that said you know what this is. Instagram Reels began flooding timelines. Side-by-side photos of Jay-Z and a 28-year-old Maryland woman named Letitia Mason. The resemblance? Beyond eerie. But then came the part no one expected. This bombshell didn't come from a gossip blog or shady rumor mill. Nope. This one was allegedly detonated by none other than Matthew Knowles himself. Yes, Beyoncé's father.
No, this part is not alleged. Jay-Z and his team, they have been ducking and dodging.
The man who built a brand, controlled the empire, and then got shoved out like he never mattered. You really think he was going to stay quiet forever? People aren't just speculating anymore. They're calling this a full-blown takedown. Matthew's silence had been golden for years, but now it sounds like it's got nothing left to lose. And with revenge in the air and family secrets hanging by a thread, the timing is way too suspicious. Is this about DNA or legacy? Social media is not just buzzing, it's going into cardiac arrest. People are reposting, decoding, and digging through.
It's not just about me. If I gotta fight for all of us, I will, but I won't let the court systems just walk over me. I won't let Jay-Z, I won't let no one just walk over me and tell me something because y'all just saying this. I want the truth. And if we can't go to the Supreme Courts, the regular courts, to find out the truth, what are they here for?
Yeah, all right, we'll get to the legal things that you've been through, the battles.
Through every archive clip of Letitia, every whisper about Jay-Z's past, and every shady sidestep from Beyoncé's camp. Some think this is just the beginning. Others are convinced the Carter empire is about to crack. And if the whispers are even halfway true, Matthew isn't stopping at some DNA reveal. He's allegedly preparing to blow Jay-Z's entire image wide open. Not just one secret child, multiple. Letitia might just be the tip of the iceberg. This isn't the first time Jay-Z's name has been wrapped in paternity drama, and it sure doesn't look like it'll be the last. Need a reminder? Think back to Ramirez Satterthwaite, the man from New Jersey who spent over 10 years chasing Jay-Z through courtrooms, just begging for paternity test. He was shut down at every level, blocked, silenced, and ignored. Sound familiar? Because now Letitia is claiming her family always knew Jay was her father. And get this, he even helped pay for their house in Maryland. That doesn't sound like a rumor anymore. That sounds like receipts. That sounds like a cover-up unraveling in real time. If you line up Reme's story with Letitia's timeline and that suspicious silence from Jay-Z's team, the whole thing starts to feel less like a coincidence and more like a pattern that's finally coming to light. Behind closed doors, the empire is shaking. Brands that once worshipped Jay-Z like a walking Fortune 500 are now dissecting every morality clause in his contracts with surgical precision. Corporate lawyers are scrambling, quietly reevaluating ties to Roc Nation, Tidal, and every other limb of his billion-dollar machine. Whispers say certain payments are on hold, which, in legal terms, usually means someone scrubbing the mess before the media catches a scent. This is what it looks like when a billionaire's image starts to collapse. Because when your entire brand is built on the image of a devoted husband to Beyoncé, a loyal father to 3, Blue Ivy, Rumi, and Sir, then suddenly rumors of a 4th or even 5th child emerge. That's not just gossip. That's brand suicide. That's a PR meltdown of generational proportions. And no matter how many chess moves you think you're ahead, Jay, some games aren't winnable. Especially when the people turning on you aren't outsiders. They are family. But here's where the whispers turn chilling. Industry vets aren't just eyeing the DNA drama. They're looking back, way back, to the early 2000s. To another moment when whispers ran rampant, stories vanished, and a life was lost. We're talking about Aaliyah. Jay-Z's name has long floated in the shadows of that tragedy. They were linked in the late 90s, allegedly dated before she chose Dame Dash, his Rockefeller partner. But what if that triangle went deeper than heartbreak? Because some people believe Aaliyah's fatal plane crash wasn't just a random accident. The new speculation? That Jay-Z allegedly ordered Hype Williams to put her on a faulty plane as punishment for rejecting him, a move to clear the way for a rising young star from Houston, Beyoncé, managed by none other than her father, Matthew Knowles. Coincidence? Maybe. But others are pointing to travel logs, timelines, and a pilot who wasn't even licensed to fly that aircraft. That plane was 700 pounds overweight. The pilot? Allegedly high, according to toxicology reports. And here's where it gets dark. Aaliyah didn't want to get on the plane. A Bohemian taxi driver whose family worked her transport claimed she was drugged, knocked out cold, then carried onto the plane unconscious. When her body was found, she was still strapped into her seat, folded forward, lifeless. That's not internet rumor. That's in the official records. People profited from her death. Stocks were shorted. Fortunes were made. And allegedly, Sean Carter was one of them. Let that sink in. Why would people need to sign NDAs for an accident? Who switched the aircraft last minute? Who rushed the gear? Who benefited most from Aaliyah's absence, right as her career was about to explode across film and music? Some insiders say the trail leads straight to Rockefeller, but not to Dash, to the people in the circle who may have viewed her as a threat. Aaliyah was already a legend. Had she lived, she might have ruled both Hollywood and the charts. Would Beyoncé have ascended the way she did? That's the uncomfortable question, and it's not going away, especially now. Let's not forget, Jay-Z and Diddy were tight back then. Still are. Remember the Black Billionaire brunch? Toasting champagne, untouchable. But look what happened to Diddy. Raids, lawsuits, scandals. And now Jay-Z's name is surfacing in those same court filings. He denies everything, calls it blackmail, claims he won't pay a dime. But denials don't erase whispers, and they sure don't wash the blood off the Bahamian runway. So where does this go from here? For now, it's a civil complaint. But let's be real, civil suits are often just a warning shot, especially when a 13-year-old girl is alleging trauma, depression, PTSD. This is about more than headlines. This is about history repeating itself. Because this isn't just about a hidden daughter. Or two, it's about a pattern. The cover-ups, the sealed files, the legal ping-pong that protected the powerful. Rimir's case was silenced court after court. Letitia's never even addressed, just slide bars in a track. Billie Jean in his prime for the 1000th time. The kid ain't mine. Catchy, but rhymes don't hold up in court. And neither does that smug silence. How do you know I'm not a gangster? Jay once bragged. Been in this industry for 30 years. Yeah, and this industry is full of gangsters. But the rules have changed. Because if Matthew Knowles truly has a DNA proof and has been sitting on it, waiting, then consider this the countdown. Jay-Z's not just battling the media. He may be up against the very family he once married into. Whispers are growing louder that the pilot who flew Aaliyah's doomed plane may have had ties to people within the industry. Nothing concrete. Yet, but the idea that Rockefeller's influence reached into the logistics of that flight refuses to fade. Former flight brokers say the charter paperwork was sketchy at best. That infamous switch to the smaller, overloaded aircraft, done at the last minute. So who signed off? Who rushed it? And more importantly, why? Flashback, red carpet, cameras flashing. Beyoncé grinning beside a radiant Aaliyah. How you doing? It's so good to see you, she says. In the weeks before her death, Aaliyah was often seen at the house shared by Jay-Z and Damon Dash. She was comfortable, included, part of the inner circle. And then, gone. Some now claim she was preparing to speak. About her past. About the people who tried to control her. About more than just R. Kelly. And what if she knew things the public was never meant to hear? What if someone made sure she never got to tell her story? Is it really a conspiracy if the same names always seem to benefit from the same tragedies? Nobody's pointing fingers, yet. But if you trace the power shifts, the sudden success stories, the eerie calm that followed her death, it becomes harder to ignore the question, who really gained the most from Aaliyah's absence? Which brings us right back to 2025. Jay-Z's fortress is under siege from all directions. DNA drama, paternity lawsuits, his connection to Diddy's downfall, and resurfaced whispers from the early 2000s. The timing? Too perfect to ignore. His silence on Diddy? Suspicious. His legal war on Rimir? Desperate. And through it all, Beyoncé stands unbothered, untouched, the queen on a board where kings are being knocked off left and right. But what happens when her kings start to sink? What if Matthew Knowles, her own father, the man who once shaped her image with precision, decides to set the entire legacy on fire with one nuclear press release? That DNA report, if it goes public, the empire burns. But why would a veteran like Matthew, a father, a strategic mastermind, even consider going scorched earth? That's where this gets personal. This isn't just business. This is betrayal. Let's rewind. Matthew Knowles wasn't just Beyoncé's manager. He was her architect, the man who chose Jay-Z as her partner. They were once the image of alignment, professional, personal, unstoppable. And then, like a ghost, he vanished. Cut from the team. Locked out of Parkwood. Written out of the history he helped create. Some say it was a quiet split over strategy, but others say it was public humiliation in slow motion. And Jay-Z? He didn't just watch. According to insiders, he pulled the strings. No, allegedly. Jaguar Wright, R&B truth teller and no stranger to controversy, has been screaming this for years. She claimed Jay-Z ran the whole chessboard, quietly pushing Matthew out because he was too strong, too black, too in control. They didn't want Beyoncé managed by a man who couldn't be owned. Not slipping, standing in their way. The result? Jay-Z rises. Matthew disappears. And when you strip a man of his legacy, erase him from a narrative, and exile him from the very family he built, what do you think he does? He waits. He watches. And when the timing is right, he strikes. You better believe Matthew Knowles kept the receipts. And apparently, one of them has Letitia Mason's name stamped right at the top. And if the whispers hold any truth, this isn't some petty family feud. This is deep. This is legacy warfare. If we ever get to the bottom of Tupac, one source said, 15 others will fall right after, and it'll all trace back to two men, a father and son. If Matthew really is the source of this DNA leak, then what we're witnessing isn't a leak. It's a calculated detonation. This is no emotional outburst. It's a long-simmering vengeance plan from a man who built a dynasty, got pushed out, and sat silent while Jay-Z soaked in the glory. He watched Beyoncé become an icon, Jay-Z become a billionaire, all while sitting on a secret that could destroy them both. This isn't just revenge. It's a reclamation of power. A father's legacy erased, now possibly about to roll back with proof no one can deny. And when we talk scandal, follow the money. Word on the street is Jay-Z didn't just throw hush money at Letitia Mason. No, the whispers go darker. 3 former Rockefeller accountants claim that untraceable royalty payments linked to Aaliyah's catalog were quietly funneled off, not to her estate, but to silence Letitia. That's right. The claim is that Jay-Z used Aaliyah's posthumous royalties to bury his own secret. And it gets more disturbing. These insiders say shell corporations were used to launder those payments. No paper trail, no audit flags, but not invisible, just hard to catch. A music supervisor even claimed that every time they tried to finalize Aaliyah licensing deals, someone at Roc Nation blocked it. Not through legal filings, but through total silence. The goal? Control the narrative. Freeze the estate. Keep anyone tied to her from gaining leverage. So if Letitia's claim is true, if she's Aaliyah's daughter or tied to her legacy in any way, this isn't just financial trickery. It's exploitation. And if even one payment can be traced from Aaliyah's catalog to Letitia's benefit, that's not just confirming paternity. That's confirming a criminal cover-up. Because now, the whispers aren't just about babies and DNA. They're about theft, legacy laundering, and legal warfare disguised as business. And that brings us to Jane Doe, the anonymous accuser who amended a lawsuit to include both Jay-Z and Diddy, accusing them of assaulting her when she was just 13. The civil case filed against Diddy last October just got a terrifying new update. Jay-Z denies it all, calling it extortion. But with Diddy already facing raids, seizures, and scandal, this is no longer background noise. This is full-blown reputational collapse. Let's be honest. Jay-Z's genius was never just in the booth, it was in the boardroom. He was a king of silencing stories before they started. He was a fixer, the cleaner, the guy who turned lawsuits into NDAs and payouts into whispers. But now, Letitia is dangerous because she's not asking for a check. She's asking for the truth. And truth scares these men more than any courtroom. And what about Letitia's mother? Friends say she suffered in silence for years. Her health declined rapidly in the 2010s. Every time she tried to push for legal recognition, she didn't get calls from Jay-Z. She got letters from his lawyers. Threats, settlements, ironclad NDAs. But here's the thing, Letitia isn't chasing money. She's chasing answers. And that terrifies people who've built empires off secrets. Jay-Z is playing the quiet game, but in this kind of storm, silence doesn't look like power, it looks like panic. His team is waving it all off, calling it a smear job, harassment, a circus of lies. But when more people start creeping out from the industry's shadowy corners, it's not just gossip anymore. A former Rockefeller Road manager allegedly told a podcast host that Letitia wasn't the only one. There were more, he said. Pay the moms, kill the noise, bury it. That podcast never aired. Legal threats shut it down. Why? You already know why. Then there's Damon Dash. And his silence, it's deafening. This is the same man who mourned Alia like she was the last light in his world, who blamed the industry for her final days, who dragged Jay-Z's name across interview after interview when it came to betrayal and industry snakes. But now, with Letitia Mason's story dragging Jay-Z right back into Alia's orbit, Dash has said absolutely nothing. No post, no interview, no cryptic tweet. For someone who used to be all mouth and fire, this silence is loud as hell. Some insiders think he's gagged by lawyers. Others think he's protecting more than just secrets, maybe even protecting himself. Because if it ever comes out that Damon Dash knew about Letitia, or worse, if any hush money came from Rockefeller accounts, then this silence isn't about respect. It's about risk. The last thing Dash needs is a paper trail leading back to his door, especially with the feds already sniffing around the old rock tree. And here's a bomb no one wants to detonate. What does Damon Dash really know? He was there. He was in the room. On the jets. In the studios. At the deals. He saw how stars were manufactured, how silence was bought, and how truths were erased before they reached headlines. Aaliyah, Beyoncé, Jay-Z. If DNA whispers were floating around back then, Dash wasn't just a witness. He was part of the machine. And now that machine is leaking. But his absence now, it ain't just suspicious, it's strategic. Because when this blows, and it will, anyone tied to the early days of Rock Nation might find themselves explaining more than just record deals. They'll be forced to answer the real questions. Who knew? Who paid? Who silenced who? And most importantly, why did they protect Jay-Z for so long? And if the whispers are true, Matthew Knowles isn't just planning to leak DNA results. He's preparing to blow the lid off Jay-Z's entire empire. Allegedly, Jay hasn't been hiding one child, but multiple. Letitia Mason might just be the first of several ticking time bombs. Remember Rime's Satchel, the New Jersey man who spent over a decade fighting for paternity tests from Jay-Z? Every court case buried, every request blocked, every attempt ignored. Letitia's story fits too well with Rime's history to dismiss it as coincidence. She claims her family always knew Jay-Z was her father. She claims he helped pay for her home in Maryland. That's not gossip, that's a breadcrumb trail. Add that to Rime's sealed court records, ignored DNA requests, and whispered threats, and suddenly, we're not looking at rumors anymore. We're looking at a pattern, a cover-up spanning decades. And Jay-Z? Silent. His team denies everything. They label it all harassment, distraction, smear campaign. But this type of silence doesn't scream innocence. It screams strategy, especially when even more alleged secret children are rumored to exist. One former Rockefeller Road manager, speaking off the record, told a podcast host flat out, Letitia isn't the only one. There were others. The order was clear. Pay the mothers. Keep the kids quiet. Shut it all down. The podcast host claims the episode was never released due to legal threats. Do with that what you will. But what's even louder than Jay-Z's silence? Damon Dash, the man who once cried publicly over Aaliyah, who blamed the industry for her death, who said Jay betrayed him. Radio silence. No post. No interview. Not even a cryptic tweet. For someone who's always been a loudmouth, the quiet now feels intentional. It gets weirder when you remember how close Dash was to both Aaliyah and Jay-Z. He was in the rooms, on the tours, at the meetings. He saw the empire being built in real time. So why is he ghosting the conversation? Insiders whisper it's not about loyalty, it's about liability. If Dash knew about Letitia, if hush payments came from shared Rockefeller funds, then his silence isn't protecting Jay, it's protecting himself. And that raises a question no one wants to ask out loud. What does Damon Dash know? What isn't he saying? He was there when Beyonce entered the orbit. He was there when Aaliyah was being courted by the industry. If anyone knows about sealed settlements, secret A's, or DNA deals made behind closed doors, it's him. His absence doesn't read like fear. It reads like containment. And that is chilling. So now we ask, why is all of this boiling over now? Why this storm, this moment? Because Diddy is the perfect distraction. Just like R. Kelly was the last time the industry needed a scapegoat. Diddy is the acceptable monster. But behind the smoke, real power is being threatened. Contracts are being reviewed. Court dates are circling. And Jay-Z's allies are vanishing one by one, without explanation. Even Beyonce seems to be pulling back. No Met Gala. No story posts. No public sightings. No defense of her husband. Is she protecting the brand? Is she planning an exit? Or is she preparing for war behind the scenes? If Matthew Knowles drops DNA receipts and ties Jay to Aaliyah's estate through Letitia, it's game over. Not just for the Carter image, but for the myth they've sold us for 20 years. And if Letitia is proven to be Jay-Z's daughter, what happens to Blue Ivy's inheritance? What about the twins? Does Jay's trust include clauses for secret heirs? And if so, how long has he known this moment was coming? Are we watching the slow collapse of a billion-dollar dynasty? Or is this just the beginning of something even darker? Because if Matthew Knowles has the truth and is finally ready to speak, then the Carter Knowles dynasty might be living on borrowed time. So what do you think? Is this the end of Jay-Z's polished legacy? Is the truth finally catching up to hip-hop's untouchable king? Or are we just peeling back the first layer of a much deeper secret?